Your computer? There we go. So ladies, this is our first live Q&A of the year. And make sure that you ask questions along the way. You can either ask them, just ask away, or you can type them into the chat box too, whichever you would prefer. So the first thing that I wanted to, I guess, go over, it wasn't really so much a question, but it had to do with that note you wrote, Mo, about imbalances. And so I did want to say that, yes, if any of you at any time when you're doing your exercises, like if you're noticing a major difference between sides of your body, or like something just feels different on one side, it might feel weaker, it might feel different, it might feel like you have your balance isn't as great. It's normal. It is important that I say that it is normal to have some imbalances. You will always have one side, your dominant side's always going to be maybe a little stronger, have a bit better balance, but you don't want it to feel like there's a huge discrepancy between the sides. There will be a little bit. So it's important when you notice those things to spend a little extra time working on the muscles that, like, so, you know, for example, if you're feeling it in your shoulder, you want to spend first time working on the little stabilizer muscles. So making sure that you have the ability to stabilize that joint. Then you're definitely also going to want to work on the mobility of the joint. And then from there, really increase like the work or the strength. So those are the little cues that's important for you to like look at when you're doing exercises and be like, something's not right here. And over time, you may get good at kind of investigating and figuring out what is the problem. Is it my glute? Is it my hamstring? Is it my rotator cuff? And so that's something that I don't expect you all to be able to do on your own. And so definitely feel free to fire any questions along the way. If you know something feels weird with an exercise, you can always video yourself and you can send it right through the app. I know we had trouble with videos on this community platform, but if you want to send a video directly to me of you doing the exercise, you can do that through the direct messaging in Trainerize. So I guess to really answer the question you had is yes, spending time focusing on those muscle groups or those exercises will make a difference. So you can make changes in those imbalances or weaknesses. And so it is important to not brush over those and really dial in. So that's the important thing, because you are working out on your own, that you have to try to be aware of that. If you were working with me in person, generally that's something that I would see and we would address. So don't ignore those little imbalances and weaknesses, because they can add up to be bigger problems down the road. And then any questions on that, or did that answer your question?
So can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. So like I know I have an imbalance on the left hip flexor. So I try to whatever I do on my right, I do on my left. So would that be getting to the root of the problem though, or should I go get it seen to?
So it does depend on, you know, exactly what's going on. It may mean doing a bit more specific work on the one side, so like a little extra, because generally speaking, if that dominant side is a little bit stronger, doing it the same will perhaps maybe keep the imbalances the same. You definitely don't want to do less on the weaker side. So you never want to do more weight on your stronger side, because that's just going to keep that imbalance there. But breaking down what might be the issue, because sometimes it's not like, sometimes think of it like the hub of the wheel and the spoke. So sometimes you're feeling this here, but it's actually that the issue comes from this hub, and so we've got to address and make sure that this muscle is firing. So if you are having trouble problem solving, then yes, sometimes seeing someone or there are some of you in Calgary, you could do a one-on-one session with me as well. So yeah, I would say if you're at that spot, you may want to book either a session with like myself or with a physio or something like that.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so then I'm gonna move into a question on supplements. So I hope you can still hear me with your headphones. But so basically, and I'm gonna start kind of broad with this because I always think like supplements in general really should be supplements. They should supplement your nutrition. So specifically, okay, good. So specifically, this was about like supplementing like greens plus into your diet. And ultimately, it is going to be better for you to be getting the intake from vegetables. However, I actually don't think there's anything wrong with supplementing your veggie intake with a greens plus or green supplement. But I don't want people getting in the mindset of thinking that can replace the vegetables, so that they don't need to eat the vegetables because they're taking this in. So use that to supplement, because you are going to get maybe your fuller range of vitamins and minerals that way. But don't stop eating veggies or think that you don't have to eat veggies. And I think that might have been where you were at, what you were specifically asking for that one. If not, and I know you can't chat right now, so you can just type it in. But moving on to the protein question, and the question more had to do with like, what's the best source of protein post-workout that isn't processed, so it's not an on-the-go bar or like protein shake. And so it's kind of a simple answer, because actually ultimately the best thing that you can do after a workout is eat a meal. So yeah, if you can eat a well-balanced meal right away after your workout, that's actually the most ideal. Things like protein powders, those are generally useful because people are on the go. And protein powder, like whey protein specifically, has a very high bioavailability, which is like your body's ability to absorb and utilize that protein. So that's why everyone talks, oh, post-workout have the shake. But if you can have real food, like really, if you can have chicken, turkey, beef, pork, lamb, something like that, yes. So having something pre-cooked and ready to go. I'm someone who, when I'm on the go, because I work out of the gym a lot of the times, I have it pre-cooked, but I don't mind like a cold chicken breast that's been cooked. So it's easy. I cut it up and maybe depending on the situation, like how much time you have, even if it just means preparing it ahead of time, having some type of like salad or even a meal. If you have a microwave, if you have access to warm it up, try to get something with a bit of carbs, with protein and a source of fat. That's going to be the best thing that you can do post workout. And so then the question on the chat here is, what's the ideal time window post workout? I have 20 minutes post workout is ideal in my head. So yeah, typically this is where things about like within like 30 minutes, yeah, it's like 20 to 30 minutes after your workout, your body's going to do the best job of like absorbing those nutrients due to the workout that you've done. You're also going to do a better job of like uptaking the essentially like the carbohydrates you have. That's usually people's most concern. The protein is important to get it in to help like rebuild the muscles that you've just worked on. But truthfully, it's actually more important to have like your protein source consistent throughout your day on most days. So if you are consistently eating enough protein throughout the day on repeat, if you don't quite get it in within that 20 or 30 minutes, it's not going to be the end of the world, because you've kind of got these stores happening from your regular nutrition. So yes, try to get a meal in right away, but it's not the end of the world if the rest of your nutrition is quite balanced and you are getting that in. So hopefully that. Well, thanks. Okay. So next I'm going to move towards some demos because I had a couple of questions, and so I will start with, I know Mo, you wanted me to go over some how to go over increasing the resistance with bands. And this is something that I did a long time ago, so it's about time that I kind of refresh and remind and maybe show a few new options. So give me a second to stand up here. So what I sort of thought I'd just group a few things together. So if you're someone who is working out at home with limited weights, and as we move into some of our more strength phases where I have your reps lower and I want you lifting higher, that's going to start next week. It's a little bit more challenging to stay within the rep range with the proper intensity level if you don't have the heavier weights. So my first advice is, like, oftentimes it's almost better to have a lighter, if you're going to be doing band under your foot, which is what I will demo first. I actually like using lighter bands. So either if you have access to a TheraBand, these to me are ideal because they just apply a constant amount of resistance, whereas sometimes a heavier resistance band will limit your range of motion just because it doesn't stretch enough. So I like these, or a really thin resistance band with handles. You can use something heavier if that's all you've got, and there's times where I like the skinny super band as well. So we'll start with something like your squats. Squats, lunges, oops, I'm all tangled up here. Deadlifts. One of the easiest ways to get some extra resistance in is to get that band under your feet, hold on to the weights that you plan to hold. And this is why you don't need a super heavy band, because you're adding to the weights that you have. So for a squat, you're going to perform your squat. You'll notice at the bottom of your squat, okay, that's when the band has shortened. So you're not going to have as much resistance as you are at the top. So the same thing would happen with your deadlift. I'm in the same position and I'm deadlifting the weight this way. When it comes to a lunge, you're going to want to change your lunge to a reverse lunge because you need the band under your front foot. So if it's a forward lunge and you're trying to add a band, you will need to change it into that reverse lunge so that the band is under that front foot. One thing that I find when I'm lunging, because you get that much lower, so notice how much slack there almost is here. So often in a lunge, I will grab closer to my foot to get that additional stretch. So I've got a little bit of tension at the bottom, and then I'm increasing it as I go up. That's sort of my simplest way to add resistance for those leg exercises. But if you don't have a band that will work to be under your feet, then my advice is to use a mini band. So you're not actually adding weight, but you are adding intensity. So now you're going to be firing more muscles. So kind of same 3 exercises, I can squat. So now I'm going to push my knees out against the band. So I'm just making that same squat more challenging. If I'm doing my deadlift, okay, I'm going to try to like push out against that band. So now I'm getting the hamstrings in a little bit different area of the glute than I normally would. And then the same thing, you can do your lunge with that band as well to get a little extra glute work here. Finally, same exercise. Well, not so much the squat, but if you have somewhere to attach your band to the base of something, I have a door hanger. So this is for my TRX. So like normally I would use it at the top, but right now I have it underneath my door. I'm just gonna slide it. Because one of my favorite deadlift variations is to use a band or cable if you're at the gym through your legs this way. So you can grab your weights, straddle your band that's attached at the base of something, and you're gonna add, I gotta move out a little bit further. So I'm adding extra resistance to this hinge portion. So I'm getting at the top, I get that extra resistance, a little more glute work this way. The other thing that you can do with the band at the bottom is, if you're doing a lunge, is have it just in the one hand. So this would be your ipsilateral lunge. You can step back into your lunge, but this band is gonna slightly pull you forward. You're gonna get a little bit more glute activation there. And then you're stepping up with that resistance. So this is one of my favorite ones. And if you're finding you have trouble balancing with that one hand, then you can either hold the one weight with both hands, but bring that other hand in, because sometimes having it straight through the middle helps people with their balance. I like it out here because I like that it causes a little bit of stability, or it challenges your stability a bit more. So those are the main leg exercises. And then when it comes to upper body, this is where things will vary. So for your row, like a bent over row, if you have a bench, this is where you are almost going to need to tie it or have it under the bench. So you can either do that, or you can do it standing like I'm about to do here. So when I'm doing a row, I'm going to have it underneath that front foot. And row in here. Okay, so you can definitely do it. You can do two arms if it's a double arm row. But what I often do is I'll just put my foot like on a lot of the band, or I'll grab extra to have that resistance here. So if you feel, if you're someone with a lot of like low back tightness, you're gonna want to stand on the opposite leg.
Tight, yeah.
To the rowing side.
Yeah.
And that's gonna alleviate stress through your back.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have a few options there. It's usually not enough tension to have it if you're using your knee on the bench. That's not enough room. You need it under the bench. So, excuse me, keep that in mind. If you don't have an option, a band that would work for that, another way to increase the intensity of your bent over row is a mini band. So you're actually going to put the mini band on your arms. You're going to need to do both arms together for this one. So you're bent over. So now I'm pushing my arms out against the mini band as I row. So I'm getting a little extra shoulder squeeze, and you can vary your range depending on how strong the band is. This is a pretty heavy band, which is why I had it higher up. If I had a lighter band, I would go lower, which allows me to row further, but doesn't destroy my shoulders as much. So the heavier the band is, the lower it is on your wrist, the harder it's going to be. Moving into more of a like bicep curl. This is where I'm gonna need a little bit longer band than that fair band I have, because I'm gonna run out of room. So this is where this guy comes in.
Yeah. He was super tired. He just like didn't want to sleep.
So for your bicep curl, underneath your feet is going to be the easiest way to add that extra tension. And then you can again change the amount of band that you have. If you need to make it harder, widen your feet.
Widen his feet.
Yes. Closer your feet are together, the easier it's going to be. And then ultimately, if you have a really tight band, just having it under one foot is still going to add that resistance, but not make it too much. In this position, this is also how you would do an overhead press. So weights up with the band. But now that I'm going way overhead, this might be too much tension. So this is where you're going to want to probably sit and do this exercise. Sit on your bench or sit on a chair, and you'll have the band under your bum. I don't have a bench at home. I don't recommend you doing this on a ball, but just for demonstration purposes. Sit on your bench, sit on your chair, put that band under your bum. So then you can get that tension without it being too much. And I know I just saw a couple messages come in, so I'm just gonna quickly check that before I move.
Oh, that's just me because I'm talking, not on mute. I'm back.
I could just see, I saw like flashes come up, and so I was like, oh, are there questions? All good. So just two more that I'll show you here for the banded options. Something like your tricep, like a tricep extension or French press or pullover even. This is where, if you have, again, somewhere to attach the band at the base of something, this is more ideal. And do not do this on a ball, do this on a bench, or you can do it on the floor if you don't have a bench. So I'm going to grab the band that I attached to my door here at the bottom. And instead of, so normally if I was doing this, I would just move further out, so I'm kind of closer to the end of the band, but I'm going to hold closer in while I create a little tension so you can see how this works. So you got to have tension on that band, or else you're not going to be able to feel that resistance. So right now this is a little too loose still, but it's just been running out of room here on the camera. So I'm going to not, see how it's slacking right there? You do not want that. You want to keep tension. So you will have a lighter band, and you kind of need to be further away than I am. Sorry about the poor demo. So if anything, I'll demo without the weight so I can show you. So you need to have this tension on the band so that you're getting the stretch of the band with the weight in your hands. Okay, so the same thing can happen with your straight arm over, but again, I'm gonna run out of band because I gotta have my hands too close to the base, but hopefully that makes sense. If you can have the space to be further away, that will work great for those exercises. Then lastly, anything like a chest press. This is also something that I don't want you to do if you don't have a bench or move to the floor. We'll take your band. This could be a chest press or a fly. You're gonna have the band under your back. So again, you can be on a bench or the floor. It's under my back here. And then I will have my weights with the band as I press up. So I'm getting that little bit of additional resistance there. And the same thing if I was doing a fly. And so notice I've got the handles hanging, because if I was hanging onto the handles, the band will be too long. Yeah. So just always remember, you can grab down to create that the tension that you need. Does that help? Is that, there's any questions on both sides?
That's really good. Can you hear me? Yeah. I have one question. I didn't want to answer it when you were on the lower body. Can you just go over why you do a walk-in lunge as opposed to a static stay in place lunge? Why do you sometimes add a walking lunge?
Oh, so that's actually more for variety. Like when we're doing a walk.
Just variety, right?
Yeah. So the thing when you're doing a reverse lunge, you are definitely queuing up more of the posterior
chain.
So this stuff is really working. Don't get me wrong, your quads do work, but as soon as I start adding the forward motion, now it changes, and now we've got the front part of our leg helping us extend forward. You are still using your glutes to help extend this way, but now the love comes a little bit more here. So we're just varying the demand on the muscles. If you always did the exact same type of lunge, it's better than nothing, but that's why we do sometimes the forward lunge, the reverse lunge. Sometimes we do the static lunge. And so same thing with the band. You can do a static lunge with the band or the reverse lunge. It's just very difficult to have a band under your foot.
Do you fit to do that? Yeah.
So that's why you have to change whatever type. If it's a walking lunge or a forward lunge, you're going to want to either do a static or a reverse lunge so that you can keep the band there.
So would you say the walking lunge is harder than just the static forward lunge?
So I'd say typically can use a heavier weight
Weight.
doing a forward lunge as opposed to the walking lunge. So walking lunge is more taxing. It almost like gets the heart rate going. And so then generally
Right.
we'll use
Okay.
lighter weight. So then it's not as hard because the weight is lighter, but it's more taxing because you have to transition forward. So
Okay.
it's a catch-22. Then if that's it for these, the last demo question I had to do about our shoulder blades. And that was a really great question because this is something that most people struggle with. So I talk lots about setting your shoulder blades.
Yeah.
And it's really important that this is something that you try to get dialed in. And I would almost recommend that you do this outside of the workout or like in a warm up or before you pick up the weight, because this is something that I want you to be able to feel without a weight so that you can replicate it with the weight, because it's sometimes almost harder with a weight. So if you can't feel it without a weight, you're going to have a very hard time feeling it
I'm
with.
feeling it with a weight.
So the most important place to really feel the shoulders being stable is when we're doing a row or a kickback. That's where you're going to do a good job of practicing. However, as you guys have heard me now say a lot of times in our lower body exercises, I'm really trying to get you to cue in on your posture and your shoulder girdle on those workouts too. So I'm going to go back to sort of the basics, back to the foundation, just so that you can do something that will help you feel what I want you to feel. So if you have your arms straight by your sides like this, I want you to think about squeezing your shoulder blades. I'm slightly lifting my chest and I'm going to bring my hands a little bit behind me. So by doing that, I'm almost getting, like, I can feel a little wrinkle. Like you should almost feel a wrinkle in between your shoulder blades, like as if you could maybe squeeze a pencil in between there. But what you need to watch is that you haven't done this. So are your shoulders up by your ears? If they are, get them down. So your hands are back. Shoulders are down. Now the hard part, keep your shoulders where they are, but like bend and relax your elbows. Can you do that? So now I know, and I look like I have a stick up my butt right now, but this is a really great way for you to feel. So when I'm holding this position, I can feel right below the point of my shoulder blade on both sides. That's what I feel. I feel a little tiny pinch and I really want you to feel that. So that's why this hand position helps you get there. And then you can relax your arms and try to hold that. To me, if you can feel that, you're on the right road. Because then I want you to replicate that feeling by having your arms out in front of you, both arms out. Keep the shoulders down. Now keep the elbows perfectly straight. And I want you to think of bringing the head of your arm into your shoulder socket. So you're going to suck them back, but without bending your elbows. So you can even just practice a little bit out and in, out and in, and feel like you should feel the movement and check in with your elbows because they're going to want to start to bend. And by getting that out and in on command is also a great stepping stone to what I want you to do. Because, for example, when it comes to doing your row, this is why I really want you breaking down your row into two motions. I want you to do what we just did. It is going to be easier doing it this way.
That way than that.
Bent over. As soon as you bend over, the brain is like, well, I can't do it. But that's why you need to practice without the weight. So watch my shoulder from here. I'm going to keep my elbows straight. And you see how I pulled the head of my arm,
my arms back,
my shoulder socket without bending that elbow. So already I'm feeling that little pinch I was talking about with that first exercise right here. And then I'm going to continue to squeeze that while I bend my elbow, but watch how I bring my elbow to 90 degrees. So my forearm is actually quite close to my hip bone. That's also going to keep my trap out of it because we tend to use our traps too much. So by bringing my forearm here, I'm also going to continue to really feel that squeeze there. And I'm going to use those back muscles, not my neck muscles, and not too much of my arm muscle either. So a common mistake is people bring their hand too close to their armpit.
Yes.
Don't worry about getting this weight up. Worry about where your elbow is.
Elbow.
So if you get the elbow up, and I think about wrapping that elbow around my back,
Around the back.
the sort of that most ideal position to get those muscles working. And that's what I'm talking about when it comes to doing your squat, front rack,
Yeah.
like that's the position. But if you can,
Yeah.
so if you can do it with a weight here at 90 degrees, it's a great way to just train that muscle memory. So then the same thing happens in your kickback. Many people use too heavy of a weight in the kickback because when you're here, you want to be in that position first, 90 degrees,
And then kick.
and then straight back, and only come to 90, and the shoulder should not move. So if you're needing to sort of, like, if you're really needing to kick it back, probably a little too heavy. I'd rather
Heavy weight.
hold that, and
Hold
you're
it.
actually gonna feel your tricep so much more with a lighter weight, holding that position with your shoulder blades.
So that's when practicing cars
Yes.
is crucial. Yeah.
So I know
Yeah.
some of you, like specifically Donna, you don't know what we're talking about because we haven't seen it yet. But this cars, so
Is crucial.
it's great for that mobility. But
Yeah.
don't worry, Donna, you're gonna see it. It's gonna come. But what that also does is it helps you know where in space your shoulders are.
Your
So
shoulders are.
that you can like have control of up, down, back, forward, like all of those positions. And so it's a really good, just more awareness exercise as well. Does that help?
Yeah, that was good.
Okay.
That was good. Yeah.
Good. Yeah. So it's a lot of practice and it's a lot of just like slowing things down. And I suggest doing a few warm-up. I said this in the past and I'll say it again, like do some warm-up reps with those, especially those challenging areas for you. If you know you have a harder time getting your shoulder blades where you want it, do a couple without the weight to try to get the position and remind your body what you're doing, because sometimes when the weight comes in, our bodies, we think our bodies think we're smart, they're smart, but they're not. So they'll compensate, and we don't want them to compensate, but they do it sometimes without, like, that's a subconscious thing. So trying to break that just happens with that repetition. So yeah, are there any other questions?
Yeah, I have something. I'm sorry,
Oh.
I talk a lot. So I noticed you did a lower body and an upper body warm up.
Yes.
Can you just clarify, like, have we ever done that before where you've videoed an upper and a lower body? Like I went into the vault and I couldn't see that. So is that the first time you've offered that in between rounds? Okay.
Yeah. So what I did is there's just, I mean, this is more because everyone's got a few of their own individual needs. In your workout, those first few exercises that you do one set of, that is your warm-up. That's your mobility and your warm-up for the workout. But some people need more than that. And some people only need more, maybe their hips, they have issues with their hips. So that's why they may not need the extra upper body warm-up. Or maybe the opposite, where someone's got, maybe they're rehabbing a shoulder injury, and so they should spend a bit more time on their upper body in the warm-up. So that's why I wanted to do that, so that you have the option to have a few of, like, what I think of. Sorry, what was that?
Did you feed the cats?
No.
Oh, that's not to me.
No, sorry, Janice.
That's okay. I was like, oh,
Sorry, my son. Feed the cats.
Oh.
Sorry.
Well, I should feed my cat too. But yeah, so it's the first time I've done that. And because I know you are someone who generally does a bit more of a warm-up, and it was just sort of maybe there are some others that needed some ideas to help them with their road to recovery from injury.
Right. No, I like those. I thought they were good. Like,
Okay.
Because I if I'm adding anything, which I normally do, in particular after, I want it to be something that's quick as well, but effective.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
For sure. Well,
So, anybody else got anything? Or is it just, it's because I'm old. I swear it's
no,
because
it's because you're curious.
it's because my body's breaking down, right?
Oh my God.
But you know what? I can still go out and hack off a 10K run.
Well, I know you can. So like your body is not breaking down. It is doing just great, Mo. So, okay, well, I'll feel free to stick around for a minute here. I'll just end this recording. So thank you guys for tuning in. And those of you who are watching the recording, fire any questions you have in the comments and I will get to them as I see them. So have an awesome rest of your night and take care.